Hi, this is Murray from Second Time Tech, and today we are doing the last video on my little series on beginner's system build. I just decided to do one that was a little bit slower to do, and so that you can see what was happening whenever you were building it, and if anything went wrong, a little bit and how to correct it. And that was the whole idea behind this, is to take time to do it. And then, if there's any questions, I could help as best I could. So, this time what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going over a couple of the things that I forgot to say when I was doing the build. And then a couple of upgrades that you could do later in order to make the system a little better when you have a bit more money saved up. So I've got them all sitting down here on my pad, so I'll be looking down every once in a while. So the first thing is I priced the system out today, and it was $537 whenever I first put the video out. Now it's $579 because there isn't as many deals. That's the Canadian. For the American one, it was $427 when I first put the video out. And now it's $446. Now that makes it $42 more in Canada and $19 more in the States. For the second thing, it is about memory overclocking. Whenever I told you about trying to change it to 2733 or 2800 megahertz, there is a program called MemTest. It's free on the internet, and what you do is you run it, and it will tell you if there's any errors. It'll exercise your memory to see if there's any errors in there, test each byte of memory. And what you do is, when it reaches 100%, you say good. When you reach 500%, that's great. When you reach 1000%, that means that it's right. It will keep working like that. And that's what you want. You want 1000%. And the best thing to do is to start slow. So if you got 2666 megahertz memory, then put it up to 2733. Test it. If it passes at 2733, then go to 2800. And then do the same thing. Test it with MemTest. Now, the second thing is that I watched a video from Hardware Unboxed, and they were testing out the AMD APUs, which is the Ryzen 3 2200G and the Ryzen 5 2400G. And he found out that if you just leave it at 256 megabytes, instead of upping it to 1 gigabyte, it doesn't really matter, because whenever it needs more memory, it just goes to the system RAM anyway. So if you're running something that doesn't require a lot of memory on your graphics card, like watching a YouTube video or doing an Excel spreadsheet or typing a Word document or going on Google and surfing the net, then you're not using a lot of memory for your GPU. So you might as well leave it at 256 megabytes and leave the rest for the system. If you set it to 1 gigabyte, then what happens is that 1 gigabyte is taken away from your system memory, and so you lose that all the time because it's separated specifically for the Vega 11 part of your APU instead of the CPU. So the chip is smart enough to know whenever it needs more memory, and it will just take it whenever it needs it. So best idea is to leave it at 256 megabytes. And I think that's normal, if I'm not mistaken, for what the default is. And some motherboards, I think, allow you up to 2 gigabytes, I think. But like he says, it makes sense to leave it at the 256 megabytes, like the lowest amount. Anyway, just wanted to clarify that. If you come across that feature in your BIOS and it says that you can have more, don't. Just bring it to the lowest amount at 256 or whatever it is, megabytes, and just leave it there. Next thing is I went on SCD key and to try to find Windows 10, and I had seen it there like a little bit before I did the video, but it's not there anymore. I've looked for the Home Edition and I've looked for Pro Edition, and I can't find it on the US portion or the Canadian portion. So I went on Amazon and I put that in the show notes of the last video. So that's why Amazon's there. I don't know if SCD Key is going to get them again or not. I'm not positive. Now, this here computer is only set up to run on cable. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not cable. It's because cable needs like cable TV. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like a wire that you plug into your router, and then the wire goes directly to the computer. So that's the only way that it'll work right now. But there's a little device that you can get. It's a little USB dongle. And what this is this is a Wi-Fi adapter. And all you do is plug it into a USB 3 port. And then Windows knows what it is. It doesn't need a driver or anything. Windows just knows. And it can use it. And then you just go on to where it says Wi-Fi on Windows 10. And then pick which network you want to go on, put the password in, and away you go. This one here is made by Hiro, H-I-R-O, sorry. And I'll put a link in the show notes for it. It works really well, and it's not that expensive. So if you do want to have wireless with this system, you need to get something like this. Whenever you install Windows, what I do is I always disconnect any drive that I'm not trying to install Windows on. So on this system, there is 2 drives. There's the SSD drive, which you want Windows on, and then there's the hard disk drive, which you don't want Windows on. So what I would do is I would unplug the power cable or the signal cable to the drive, load your Windows, because Windows won't see it if it's not plugged in. And then once you get your Windows installed, you're only going to see, when you install it, you're only going to see the one drive, and that will be the 120 gigabyte SSD. And so then you won't get mixed up whenever it asks you which drive to put it on. So therefore, I would, like I said, I unplug it, install it. Once everything's running good, then I turn the system off or shut it down, and then plug in the hard disk drive. And then Windows will see it, and then you can use it. Now that's basically one of the stuff that I want to tell you about what I didn't really mention whenever I was building them. Actually, I may have mentioned it and then just forgot I did, but I just want to make sure that you knew those few things. Now, one of the things to make it a little better and easier is to put in a modular power supply, or even a semi-modular power supply, because you always need the 24-pin cable and then the CPU cable for the motherboard. So you can get semi-module. That's what the two cables that are on it are, and you always need them. And if you get a fully modular one, then you have to plug those cables in the power supply and then plug them in the motherboard. So it doesn't really matter which way you go. But the big thing is that you don't have a bunch of extra cables. So it does make your cable management easier, and there's less cables inside of your computer, and you only have there what you need. So on this one, all you would need is like a SATA connection, and then your CPU 8-pin connector and your 24-pin motherboard connector. And that's all you would need. Anything else is extra, because like you don't have a GPU in there, so you don't need the GPU cord. And then the other thing is you don't need that other SATA cable on it either. So you can save a lot of room and even some work doing your cable management. Next thing is get a MSI B450M Pro VDH motherboard, because they are exactly the same price as the B350M Pro VDH. Right now, I checked on both, and I'm saying exactly the same price, but in Canada, I think it's $1 less for the B450, and I think in the States it's $1 or $2 more for the B350. So it makes more sense to get the B450 Pro VDH. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is memory. And I told you I put 2666 megahertz memory in here, and that's because what I bought. That's what I bought. And I suggested putting 3000 or 3200 megahertz memory. 3200 megahertz memory is about the highest that you'd want to go. And 3000 isn't too bad. You may even be able to overclock it to 3200. But if you want to add more memory to your system, you have to get the same frequency RAM as you had before. Preferably the same kind of RAM that you got the last time. Doesn't have to be, but preferably. Now you can get it in another 8 gigs, which would make it another 8 gig kit, which would make it 16 gigs total. Or you can get a 16 gig kit, which is makes it 24 gigs total. So you kind of like decide what you want, but 16 gigs is enough memory for pretty much everything right now. You don't really need to have more. If you're planning on keeping this a long time and not changing it, maybe put 16 gigs more in it if you have the extra few dollars to do it. I checked the cheapest price in Amazon, Amazon Canada, Amazon US, and for an 8 gig kit that is 3200 megahertz, it's $115 in Canada. That's what it starts at. And it's $79 in the States, and that's what it starts at. Now, for a 16 gig kit, it's $171 to start for the 3200 megahertz kit, and it's $117 in the States for a 16 gig kit. Now those just go into the 2 empty slots that you have left over. Next thing is video card. If you like playing games and you want to make it a lot better for playing games, 16 gigs of memory and a video card will do wonders on this, especially if it's 3200 megahertz. There's 2 video cards that I would suggest, and the reason why I would suggest them is because they're middle of the road. You don't need to get anything extra fancy because you don't have, this isn't a really extra fancy machine. I tend to go with around 50% of the cost of your computer that you have. So what I would figure would be a Radeon RX 580 8GB, and that's around $301 Canadian. That's what they start at right now. And in the States, it starts at $180, and they kind of go up from there. So you have to look around a little bit. Now, that's a future thing. Now, if you want to get a GeForce, or an NVIDIA card, I should say, what I would do is I would get the RTX 2060. I saw the reviews from CES and what Gamers Nexus put up, and what I think it was Jay's 2 cents. I think they were the two that put it up videos. And they feel like it's a pretty decent little card. They don't say that it's great, like fantastic, like the really high-end ones, but it's still, for the price, it's not a bad card. It's supposed to be $350 US for the card whenever it comes out. I don't know the Canadian price, and they say sometimes whenever it comes out, if there's a big demand for it, the price may jump $20 or $30 in the States. So it'll probably jump $40 or $50 in Canada. So my best guess, I would say, is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 to $550 in Canada. And in the States, it would be about $350 to $380 for sure, because that's what the MSRP is $350 American. Now, I know that's way more than 50% of the price of the system. It's almost the total price of the system. But if you're going to get NVIDIA, you might as well get something good and new. And for bang for the buck, because it runs almost as fast as a 1080 It runs as fast. I think it's a 1070 Ti. It runs the same speed as that. And for the price, it's a decent card. You can always go with the GTX 1060 6GB. So I think why not? Go for the RTX if you want to go NVIDIA. Now, that's pretty much what I had to talk on that, about the upgrades to it. Now, I didn't go through and talk about a mouse, a keyboard, and a monitor. I do have a video up, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes, that talks about an inexpensive mouse, keyboard, and monitor. So I think I'll stop now. But if you like the video, thumbs up. If you don't like the video, thumbs down. If you like the content, then please subscribe. I want to wish everybody a wonderful day. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Bye.